Okay, geographers, let's finish up this georeferencing exercise. We'll get into what to do now that we've actually put the map into the proper geographic location. And so, as you can see, looking at the screen, I have my 16 different control points here have been, affixed to the map into space. I went through and did every single one. I then, once I did this, I looked at these transformations. I'm pretty sure I talked about all this in the last video. And the more control points you add, the more options you have. And these different things here, these transformations, are just different ways in which, behind the scenes in the actual code itself, the computer is trying to adjust that image to every single point and get it as accurate as possible to where you're saying it's supposed to exist. And that's not quite as simple as it seems, because you anchor one part of the map over here, that's going to pull over here and actually kind of move it out of position. So you try to stretch that back, but if you do that, it's going to distort this. So there's a lot going on. Luckily, we have the computer program to do the work for us, right? But once I got all of these in, I went through, checked out ones that worked. I settled on spline. That seemed to have the best accuracy for the map, so I selected that one, eyeballed everything, liked the way it looked, and then once I had selected that, I hit save, because you just want to save this. And what it'll do, you can check. I'm not going to get into it right now because I want to get through some other stuff. But if you go into your actual folder, right, not through catalog here, but through the Windows File Explorer, uh, whatever, to look at it like you would any other program, go into Documents, Projects, this Geodatabase 220, you'll see, in addition to the CA Placerville TIFF, something that's like TFW or some other similar thing. That's that world file. So we're producing that. I think it also saves an XML little metadata file as well. So you can check that out, see how that works. But as long as you hit save, you're good. And I'm going to go ahead and hit close georeference because we're done. I don't need to adjust this anymore, move it any longer, because it's where it is, right? So I'm ready to get back into some other stuff. I'm also just going to go ahead and uncheck the reference points because I'm done with those. I don't need them. You could just go ahead and remove them too, just to have, clean up your contents pane over there. But I'll just uncheck it for now. But yeah, my map is set and ready to go. And so what I want to do now is actually create some data, some points based on things that are on the map, things that don't exist today and are probably going to be fine to hard good GIS data for. So we're going to specifically go around the map and generate points for mines and mills, okay? Sawmills that exist. There were a bunch of these things all around. You had some settlers in here cutting down trees and making lumber, others trying to find gold in this area. So a lot of mills, a lot of mines. Both of these have potential import for just historical purposes. The mines specifically, there's a lot of environmental stuff behind that, some nasty things that were done, as well as just kind of, having big open holes around the area. So it'd be good to catalog that, get a sense of where these things are, and then go investigate. So what we're going to do from catalog here is we're going to make a new feature data set. Okay, we have one for California, one for the Antelope Valley so far. I'm going to right click up here, new feature data set, and I'll just call this one Placerville, just because it makes sense for this, right? But if I were planning maybe to look at kind of the larger area, maybe I would call this one El Dorado County. I could have, if I'm doing a lot of different projects throughout California, maybe I want to make it county based and fit everything within that. Maybe not, but this is part of your planning as you're, generating data for some project, exactly what's the scope of what you're trying to do. I'm going to call it Placerville. Coordinate system, I'm going to go ahead and select, I don't want this reference points because remember that was Clark 1866, out of date, archaic stuff. I want what I used for the actual, map frame itself and our georeferencing here. I'm going to use that NAT 83 UTM zone 10. So I'll keep everything in that. That's what I'm going to work in. I'll hit run. Should not be a problem. I go back to catalog, and sure enough, there's Placerville, right? Nothing in it yet. So I'll right click and I will do new feature class. And for this, and let's call it, I'll do hist underscore points, historical points. And for the alias part here, remember you can actually spell it out. Historical points. We want historical to indicate that it's from the past. Historic would mean something big happened here, some event. All right, and then for type, I want point. I'm not going to do M, not going to do Z. I'll leave that add output. I go next. And with this, I'm going to add a field for name. And I want that to be text. All right, and I'll go ahead, just so it's not too crazy, I'll do 100 as the length. I don't think there's going to be anything much longer than that. Hopefully my gamble pays off. So I got that one. I'm going to add another one, and I'll call this one type, similar to what we've done before. I could create a domain and connect to that. I'm not going to for this one. You're welcome to do that if you think it'll make it easier, as you see what I'm doing here. But the idea is it's either going to be a mill or a mine, right? So yeah, a good excuse to use the domain thing to keep it simple, have that drop down. But honestly, not doing that much. I want to get this video done so we can move on to the other stuff. So I'm not doing the domain. All right, type will be text, and mill, mine. Those are four, 4-letter words right there. So I don't need 255. I might have other types that I come up with later. That's why it's nice to actually do that domain thing, is I can adjust that one time and it fixes some of that stuff. But I'll just do here, I'll do 20. All right, just in case down the road I wanted to add something that was a little longer. But name and type, these are going to be key for what I'm doing here. The other stuff, if you hit next, it's going to be default to this. It's all the tolerance stuff. So once I get those fields in there and the name of the whole feature class, I'm good. I'm going to hit finish. It's going to add it in there, right? Nothing shows up because we haven't created anything yet, but we've got that, okay? And in looking at this, you might say, well, since I've got this Placerville reference point, should I put it in here with in this data set? Can't do it, right? Because the spatial reference, that coordinate system, is totally different. And to project this and turn this into that UTM NAT 83 stuff, well, that kind of defeats the purpose of having that there. So I'm going to leave that outside simply because it doesn't fit with this stuff. It's not the new data that I'm creating. So just thought I'd mention that. All right, historical points is over here. And so what I want to do is let's zoom in to an area on the map. It's taken a little while. My computer's whirring like crazy. A lot is going on, so it might take a little while as you're working, zooming in to places. Just being patient with that stuff. And if you get kind of impatient and you're clicking and it just stops drawing and pausing, this little refresh thing in the lower right corner, hit that and it will redraw whatever's there. And what is here? We got some stuff in here. A few things I should mention. I can't help but notice this. Let's go in here. We have White Man's Ravine. That's charming. Here's the deal with working with historical maps and references. We've got some interesting, to say the least, racially charged names. Now, this one I'm pretty sure this is the only thing that you're going to encounter. I could be wrong though. You've got some issues here with some names that are, downright racist and awful. And we've made an effort very late to the game. I mean, it's rather recent and we've done this, but to rename these things. These are names that were given by people, white folks, coming into the area, naming things. These USGS cartographers would come out, making the maps, and they ask, like, what do you call this ravine? And the locals say it's called White Man's Ravine, and they write it down, right? It's a thing where there was not a lot of critical thought about, what some of these names imply. And again, this one's fine. No big deal in terms of being offensive. Some other ones are pretty awful. But, that's the deal. We're changing some of these things, but, heads up. When you're doing this historical work, research, and all that. So we got that. Another thing I noticed down here, and I love charming, the town of Balls. Who knows what the history is of that? That does not exist today, because believe me, I would have been giggling about that as a little kid, having grown up out here. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe there's some signs there, but that's delightful. All right, so let's get that childish stuff out of the way. But what you're going to do is you're going to zoom in. Let's thinking. In fact, what I'm going to do. Oh, actually, well, here's one thing you can do. We could check. Yeah, no balls, right? We saw Latrobe right there, but no balls. I stand vindicated. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and remove the topographic map world hillshade because I don't need them. This is what I need right here. And that maybe will help with the refresh rate and how it's redrawing all of this stuff. But what I want you to do, start an area and then aha, right here, we have this mine. Let's move up. Do we have a few? Yeah, okay, perfect. Handful of these mines up here. So what you're going to do is cruise around. You'll go edit. Make sure you have historical points selected over in contents. Edit. Going to create. I select this thing, and this is pretty simple. With a point feature class, just select this first little thing. You're just going to click wherever there's a mine, right? So like this one, and you should get, oh, hold on. It's thinking. I made the mistake of trying to scroll in. Oh, good Lord. And this is have a nice drink, snack, watch TV, whatever, as you're waiting for things to redraw. But like right here, this shape is our mine. So I'm just going to left click once right there. Okay. And what you can do too, I can just left click and select over here in contents like I did with the reference points. I can pick something like this rather than the red that I've already used. Let's try a nice pink. I'm just trying to get something that will stand out. Hard to see because it's selected and it's blue, but if I clear, there's my mine right there. Then you can do this, a few different ways to do this. I would just open up my attribute table. So once I select that, okay, type will be mine. And you want to make sure if you're not using the domain, you want to be consistent. So I'm doing all lowercase, just mine right there. Okay. For name, this is a little tricky. I could simply leave it blank, which isn't the best, practice right here because people who use this down the road won't know. Was I lazy? Did I forget? Did it get deleted or something like that? Or is there no name? For this one, I'm going to write unnamed just so I can keep track of it, right? So I know what I'm doing. And as I'm going through, I'm gonna hit this little, green check thing. I'm gonna save stuff just so if something crashes or whatever, I don't lose all my work. Okay, I'm now, let's see. Oh, let's see. Oh, here we go. Hold on. Yes, save all edits. That was on the other screen. That's why my cursor wasn't working. I'm going to resize that. I'm going to zoom out. If I push that track roller thing on my mouse down and hold it, I can pan. I can come over here. And so with this, as I'm looking, I've got Starlight Mine over here. That's this shape. Church Mine would appear to be this right here. So pay attention. When you see these names here, don't simply click wherever at the start of the name. Look for the little shape. In this case, it's a bunch of these squares. It's showing a feature, right? And like in Logtown, the idea is we've got these are structures of some kind in this tiny little town, right? Something that popped up probably for these mines right here. So if I'll click that one. So in here, church mine, and oh, hold on, there we go, mine, right? And then I click out of it. I hit this little yes, and see this is sometimes it like my cursor is off a little bit. Let me hit create. Go back to that. Go here. I'm sure I could be way more elegant and efficient with this stuff, but I don't edit that much anymore. So I don't know. But you kind of figure that out as you work, little shortcuts. So there's probably some areas where I can click on this or right click and I'd save a lot of time, but that's the deal, right? You kind of figure out your workflow as you go. All right, so I have these mines. Save that. Now, just to show, let me move this over. Yes, save all edits. My goodness. Let's zoom out a little bit and see. We might not have any mills over here. Bear with me, because I want to show one last thing as you're going. We have to go up here in the hills to get a mill. So what you should be doing is, do this systematically. Don't just pop around and do stuff wherever. Work, east to west, north to south, however it works for you, so that you don't miss stuff. All right, we want to be consistent here. Let me see. There were mills here. I could just put one wherever to prove the point. But I was hoping to show an actual one. Son of a gun. And there's probably one there, and you watching the video, you're staring at it, and you're like, this dummy grandpa working the computer, but back off. Let's move in here. The hell? And again, a pro would edit this stuff out, do another take, make it look like he knows what he's doing. But this is the reality. We all make this up as we go, and we get frustrated with it not working, and we're stubborn, and we just keep going, and da 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 da. So yeah, swear to goodness, we did discover Grizzly Bear House, adorable, and kind of next to Butcher. There's a lot going on in this area. Okay, here's what we're gonna say. I swear there are mills around here because I've seen them. But let's just pretend there's a mill right here. Okay. So I'm going to click there and I'm going to, let's say it was named, not real mill, just so I know to delete that. All right. And type, oops, let me do this. I'm going to put mill. Again, don't make this stuff up. Put it where it's supposed to be. Let me save everything in here. Yes, save all my edits, clear my selection. I'm just doing this so we can move on right here. So what I want you to do for your actual assignment and what you're going to turn in is you're going to go through and you're going to map out mills, mines, have these things mapped, have this, set up so that you've got this type field. And what you're going to do, the final thing you turn in is going to be an exported layout with this georeferenced map. And then I want these mills and mines shown on top of the map, but I want it distinguished between which is which. All right, so if I left click just on the little hot pink circle, and it lets me change this stuff. If I hit back, primary symbology, I don't want single symbol. All right, I want unique values based on not name but type. All right, and what this will allow me to do is have have it different based on whether it's a mill or a mine. All right, now with this one, this all other values is if I don't have something that has this type, listed for it, or it's like it's either not filled in or it's something totally different, it will symbolize it using this color right here, right? And I don't like it. So just go ahead and hit remove. It kind of junks up everything. We don't need it for what we're doing, but it's either going to be a mill or a mine. And we can select, since it's only two, we can just go in here. You could have, I forget if I clicked on mill or mine right there, but you could do, like, let's do a big square. Okay, so it's a mill, it's a, red square. And if it's a mine, I can click on that. Maybe I want to make it a triangle, and I'm going to make it a yellow triangle. Okay, and hit apply and go back. But that way, it shows, let me right click and zoom to layer. So it shows the difference between these are clearly mines, that's clearly a mill, even though it really isn't, and I just got tired. But hopefully you get the idea, right? That we're looking for, separating mills, mines, all of that stuff. And so when you're done with this here, make sure you're saving as you go, but go through. I want to see the whole thing where you cover this stuff. And then when you're done, insert new layout. You can just do a letter size, do portrait since that's the orientation of the existing map. All right, from here, we'll add, map frame, and this is where it's nice since we have multiple ones in this project. We know it's the Placerville one. We don't have to remember that we were working in map 4 or whatever. So we'll do that. Draw it somewhere on here, and zoom in, center this stuff. Don't turn in something like this. Right click, activate. I can, hold on, oops. I can kind of adjust, zoom in. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not going to fit perfectly, but I want it, relatively zoomed in and centered. Layout, close, activation. And so go through and do all this stuff. Pick some colors and some symbols so it's very clear when we're looking at it what's what. You can right click and do label. And if it isn't, exactly, here, let's just do this. Go straight to labeling properties. See, we don't want it to be object ID. We want the name, right? For symbol, yes, please commit. Symbol, we don't want Tahoma because that's ridiculous. Find something that looks good, maybe something that looks kind of historical and fun. Make it, big enough to be read on here. That might be too big, but whatever. Halo, you can select a white halo right here. So it has just this kind of border around the text, so it's a little easier to read. And so you can see it's, labeling these things, it pops out on there. All right, so label these things, insert a legend so I know what's a mine, what's a mill, even if it's clear. And then, once you're done, save everything, share, export layout, export it as a JPEG, upload it to Canvas, and you're good, right? And what we've done is we took this historical document, something that was presumably hanging out in the map room, the storage room at the office, hadn't been looked at for a while, or we find it in actual archives or a library or whatever. Pull this thing out, scan it, slap it into proper geographic space, and then we can actually start digitizing the relevant and important data from that, right? And turn it into something that's actually useful. We could take this feature class and compare it to a whole host of things, right? Like think about in terms of, with this mining, a lot of pollution, some of the chemicals used in the mining process, as well as things kind of exposed and released into the soil. But we could look at, soil quality reports and, or, a whole host of things. I don't know, like disease rates and things like that. I've worked on some of that stuff. We're surveying people with medical issues and then trying to get at what's causing it. Is it some environmental cause? Maybe people who live near some of these old mines have some nasty stuff in the soil. Maybe not. I don't know. But what we can do is we can actually compare it, right? And get a sense of what's happening here. So that's why we do this. That's why it's really useful to learn this stuff. All right. So happy editing and digitizing. Make something pretty for me and turn this thing in. All right. All right. Good work, team.